Hello and welcome to Slow Theatre's International Creative Lab for the 6th edition of this exchange. My name's Louise Orwin, and tonight I'm going to be hosting and facilitating this exchange. And just before I tell you a bit more about the exchange, I'm going to invite on a member of Slow Theatre Company, Becky, just to chat a bit about what the company does. Becky, would you like to come on?
Hi there. As she said, I'm Becky and I am the project assistant for Slow Theatre Company. I joined back in February of this year and I studied performance at college. So I'll just speak a little bit about what Slow Theatre is and what this project is. So Slow Theatre is a not-for-profit organisation, theatre company based in Norfolk. We try to create as much theatrical happenings as we can using multi-disciplines and artists and people within communities. Our work has taken us into small communities, sometimes with people who are feeling challenged or have challenges, and this can happen anywhere within Norfolk. And unfortunately, just like most people within the arts here within the UK and around the globe, we have been hit by the global COVID-19 lockdown and the challenges that is brought to artists. So we have to really change the way we communicate and create. This project has been created directly out of the challenges artists are facing due to COVID-19. And hopefully this lets them experiment and create in different ways. This is our second international project, and we want to remind you that even the smallest communities are not isolated. This is our first research project for freelance artists, and we hope it's to inspire others and artists to communicate online, consider lowering their carbon footprint, and to communicate with artists and people who online who they have never met globally. We're doing a total of 7 exchanges, and if you'd like to know any more about Slow Theatre and our work, then you can either check us out on YouTube, or you can visit our website or our social medias. But yeah, thank you.
Brilliant, thank you so much for that, Becky. So yes, as Becky said, tonight you're going to be seeing the 6th edition of the International Creative Lab. And as Becky mentioned, this project really is about trying to find some of the gifts of this new digital age that we find ourselves in. So bringing together artists across borders, across cultures, across languages, and also often across diverse practices to see what happens when we find ourselves in these digital spaces and to see whether actually we can find some gifts from it. Lots of us, myself included, I'm an artist, are feeling a real grief about having our live practices and our collaborative practices taken away from us at the moment. So yeah, this project tries to sort of breathe some life back into our practices to see what we can discover. So, as Becky mentioned, this is the 6th edition of the Live Exchange International Creative Lab. And tonight's edition brings together an artist from Norfolk in the UK and an Italian artist living in Berlin. They've never met each other before. They've had a couple of chats. But that's about it. So what you're going to see tonight really is them, 2 artists meeting each other really for the first time in terms of their practices, to see what can happen when they're thrown together, to see how they can collaborate live for the first time. So the way that you should be thinking about what you're going to see tonight is really almost as if it's a little peek behind the rehearsal room curtain or into the studio to see 2 artists and their processes. Please bear in mind that we are working across different disciplines, different time zones, and also different Wi-Fi capabilities. So do bear with us if anything happens. But yeah, tonight you should really be thinking about what comes next in terms of process and improvisation and exchange, rather than thinking about watching a finished product or a finished show. This part of an artist's process is usually quite a vulnerable, fertile time. So you should probably also count yourself quite lucky to be invited into this part. I think it's quite a brave thing for 2 artists to do as well. So bear that in mind when you're thinking about this evening as well. A few housekeeping bits. As I mentioned, we are now working in the wonders of the digital age. And although there are obviously some gifts, as I'm sure you'll see tonight with this very exciting exchange to come, we also are working in fairly risky territory sometimes. So do bear in mind that working across time zones and Wi-Fi, things we might struggle occasionally, but if that happens, then just bear with us. We do have a magnificent team working behind the scenes, so if anything does go down or anything seems a bit messy, just bear with us and we'll get it back up and running in no time, I'm sure. So this evening, the exchange will be live for an hour. And then afterwards, I will be hosting a post-exchange chat between the two artists. You will be able to submit questions. So if you do have any questions for this chat, any burning things that you'd love to ask the artists, then you can just submit those questions in the chat below whichever platform you're watching on this evening. Also, just to say, rather excitingly, due to the nature of this being completely live, we have no idea what's going to happen. And for that reason, we would just also ask you to bear in mind that there is potential for there to be adult themes in tonight's content, possibly swearing. Essentially, we don't know what's going to happen, so just bear that in mind. But that also means that it's very, very exciting. Lastly, I would just invite you this evening to just watch with an open mind and an open heart and with curiosity. And I guess, yeah, I guess counting yourself lucky as well that we get, because of being thrown into the digital age, we get to bear witness to this very fertile part of two artists coming together for the first time, and they're doing something very brave. So bear that in mind as well. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to bring the artists forward. So first of all, I'm going to introduce Xenia Horn. Xenia is a harpist and a theatre maker from Norfolk in the UK. Would you like to come forward, Xenia? Hello.
Hello.
Hello. And then I'd like to introduce to you Marta Lodola, who is a performance and visual artist.
Hello, everyone.
Okay. All right. Well, I've got nothing more to gabble on about, so I'm going to leave you to do it.
Okay.
All right. Enjoy.
Thank you. So we were thinking about this is the beginning of when it all started. Back in March.
We go back to the virtual and not recognizable figure of a human body.
Coronavirus is spreading in the UK. And the government is seeking ways to minimize its spread. Without drastic measures, which could be in place for weeks or even months, it's feared that more than 250,000 people could die. What steps should I take? All members of the public should reduce the time they spend with others. Everyone should stop non-essential contact with others. This is particularly important for people over 70, those with underlying health conditions, and pregnant women. People should work from home if they can. Cafes, pubs, and restaurants are being closed from Friday night, except for takeaway food to tackle coronavirus. People should stop all unnecessary travel. everyone should continue to regularly wash their hands and avoid contacting the NHS unless it is essential. The strongest warnings are in place for those who are ill and the people close to them.
Le vittime del Covid sono persone non indispensabili allo sforzo produttivo del Paese, dice Giovanni Toti, governatore della Liguria. Contagiati non vuol dire che sono malati. Basta con il terrorismo, dice Salvini. Thousands of dead people closed in bars, left alone without a family to die. We are losing our freedom. We are losing our humanity. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Can you?
Those most at risk, about 1.5 million who've had organ transplants, have severe respiratory conditions or some cancers, shouldn't go out for 12 weeks and will be given essential supplies if they don't have support systems of their own. The strongest warnings are in place for those who are ill and the people close to them. Anyone with a fever or persistent cough should stay at home for 7 days. Anyone who lives with someone displaying coronavirus symptoms should also stay at home for 14 days. People who have to isolate themselves should ask others for help.
I don't see my family from more than 1 year. How much time should I wait? I don't know.
I haven't had any work. I had no work at all. No work. Not sure what I'm going to do. Thank God we can still go outside. Thank God for that. I'd go mad otherwise. I see. Right.
You see my eyes.
I see you.
Please, I can't see or hear Xenia anymore.
Can you? Ooh, can you see now? Everybody's feeding back.
So, Xenia, if you want to put the mic on the iPad, just make sure it's muted on the laptop and the sound is also turned down on the laptop.
Is it muted now?
No, because we can still hear you through the laptop as your iPad's still muted. So you need to tap the mute button and also turn the volume down. Or you can continue using the microphone on the laptop if that's easier. And when you have a second, just double check that original sound is enabled on your laptop, as it just was dipping out a little bit before.
I've just left the laptop, so I'm on.
Great. That sounds perfect.
Is that better?
Yep, great.
Okay. So, Chris, can you put up the film of the light on the leaves for me?
Sure, no problem.
Thank you.
I can't hear again. I don't know if it's something.
I'm just going to do a little tiny quick tuning of the harp before I come back in again, Marta. So
Yeah, sure. I will continue then.
Can we switch to the still of the water drop, Chris?
How do you feel, Xenia?
That feels like an end.
Yeah. It's really weird, yeah?
Hold on, I'll try and throw some light on the matter.
Yeah.
You got lost on the street, Marta.
What?
You got lost down the street. I was worried you were going to get run over.
Yeah. Should we start again?
Yeah. So I think what would be really, really helpful would be to have for me to have control of more images that I can put in for transitions, because it felt like I was slightly panicking, even though this is a sort of a completely rough play through. There's something about not quite having things under your control. So there were moments where I could see I would love to counterpoint things that you were doing with images I know I have, which could be sort of like an echo. And that would also be in the theme of the, you, me, here, now. There's something really nice about the echoing.
Yeah. Also to respond with actions with your music, because actually when you play and I will perform, but if I don't listen properly the music, I cannot really respond or answer.
How was the sound for you? Could you hear enough?
Yeah, perfectly. Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, and I could really see you. So that part of technology was really great. That there's a sense of really being able to respond in the moment.
Yeah,
is handy.
Yeah, also was connecting some movement also with my eyes when you were reading something was really interesting to guide the expression of the face and to follow what you were telling in that moment was really interesting, this way to stimulate each other's.
And also when you had your mask and that sudden change of your persona, that felt like a complete shift from what I wanted to do to respond to that. And I think that it'd be quite nice to have some other instruments in there, like things which you can't quite identify, because there's something quite that sort of shift of what you think is a reality, an existing reality, going into another slight dimension. So sonically, it'd be nice to reflect that with a slightly different sound quality.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's absolutely magic. I mean, it's also the way to feel your intuition, your guide, and at the same time, yeah, to respond in a kind of really personal way. And this is something that we are actually doing right now. Or sometimes I was feeling really silly to do something maybe obvious, but actually, yes, I was trying to be with you and to be in this moment right now.
And I think the thing of playing, the playfulness, that curious playfulness, playful curiosity, that's a really interesting dimension to explore, and to keep at the center of it, because you can judge yourself in the moment when actually that's not what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be just seeing what possible things can happen when you've got the resources you have. And it's so nice to be working with you, even though you're so many miles away. It feels very immediate somehow, and this is the first time I've ever worked like this.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I work with in person with artists that I never met before, but this is the first time I'm really working online with an artist, and I think it's really amazing to feel this sensation that you have actually when you improvise with another artist in person, and when you are connected through the video. There is this special frame that it's just cutting the reality around, but then what you feel and what you exchange with the other person is absolutely unique. This is can really go really far away. It's not a matter of presence or not, but yes, it's absolutely something that we listen and we answer to each other through our own practices, and this is actually something that is really inspiring.
It definitely feels like this should be the first step of many.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it'd be lovely to be able to carry on and see where it takes us.
Absolutely, yes.
So I think we've probably we're ready to come into the sort of question section. If are you ready, Marta, for that?
Yeah, absolutely, yes. I think we just finished by ourselves, and
Naturally.
we just went slowly to the last part.
Winding down.
Yeah.
Hello, artists. Would you like a break to go and grab a glass of water, a glass of wine, or are you happy to carry on straight into it? It's totally your call.
I will take just a bit of
just a minute.
water. Yeah.
That's fine.
I'll be back in a second.
So, whilst we wait for the artist to go and grab a refreshment, I'll just remind you here a bit about what you've been watching. So this has been Slow Theatre's International Creative Lab. This is the 6th exchange that we've done so far. And the exchange tonight, very exciting exchange tonight, happened between Xenia Horn, who is a harpist from Norfolk in the UK, and Marta Lodeler, who is a visual performance artist from Berlin. We will be going now into roughly about half an hour of a Q&A with the artist to really dissect and dive into what we've all just watched together. I'm really excited about that. I hope you all are too. Just a reminder then that if you would like to have ask a question to the artist, then you can submit that by writing it into the comment box on whichever platform that you're watching this on, and our brilliant assistants behind the scene will send them through to me so that I can direct them towards the artists. So we'll just wait now for Xenia to come back, and then we'll get on with the chat. Marta, how are you feeling?
Sorry, okay. Really good. Actually, was really exciting for me because I mean, we prepared kind of frame for the interaction, but actually a lot of things happened just right now, and yeah, I think was really an interesting way to feeling ourselves together. Anyway, for me, the feeling was as we were really in presence, that we was together experimenting and playing and performing. Yeah, thank you so much anyway for inviting me.
It was
It
fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
to say before we get into the questions that was just so joyful to watch, so thank you both so much. It almost felt, I mean, there were parts of it that felt very moving, but it almost felt very sort of meditative to me as well at some points, and I'd love to ask you a bit about that, about some of the some elements to it almost felt kind of ritualistic as well, which felt really nice. And I think there was a sort of like a slowness and a gentleness to your collaboration, which felt really pleasing. And especially because, you know, the way that most of us interact, or the way I feel I interact with digital spaces, is this, you know, high speed communication and exchange, and, you know, multiple tabs open all the time, and, you know, chatting across loads of different devices. And I think it was really amazing to feel like I was in this really slow, gentle, quite feminine digital space, I would say. But yeah, I just love to hear, just first of all, how are you both feeling? How did you feel it went? What were your favorite moments? Yeah, anything you'd like to share with us.
Who starts?
Xenia, how are you feeling now? I asked Marta how she was feeling.
As if we've just started something that I'd like to carry on now. Thank you very much. So there's something very it's one of the things that I found all around the whole sort of COVID thing is that we have been separated from who we usually are in terms of what we do for our practice. You know, whether we are playing at a gig, or whether we're playing for people, for friends, or playing at a community setting, and there's been something very stripped out of my life by all the COVID restrictions and the shutting down of our cultural world. And this has been a fantastically recharging and energizing experience, because we were talking about that playfulness of what we've been doing, and just sort of reacting to what each other has been doing at various moments. And what you said, Becky, about the calmness, I absolutely agree with that. There was no sense of stress or urgency or pretense or artifice. It was very much about the two of us interacting, but in our spaces, and then finding sort of commonalities and bridges between each other's actions.
It was actually quite amazing to see. I mean, obviously, I had a little brief window into what this collaboration might look like when we had the very first meet and greet, which was it a couple of weeks ago now. Which, for the audience back home, this is where Marta and Xenia met each other for the first time. But even in that very first chat, there was a sense of real flow to the way that you were speaking and talking about your work, and I think that was just really wonderful to see, especially because it did feel like, you know, at that stage that you come from very different practices. But maybe that's a nice place to start. What do you think? Because you clearly do come from different practices. You know, one's a musician, one's a visual artist, performance artist. But what do you think are the commonalities between both of your practices that have given you such a wonderful sense of flow in your exchange?
But I think that for me it was really surprising to know that also Xenia work with site-specific performances, and we have both this practice in common. So to bring our own practices, not only in galleries or theaters or big venues, but we have interests to bring our own way to create outside. So experimenting with the environment and with the natural environment. I think that this was one of the things that make us, I think, what for me actually, not just for us, but I was really attracted from her practice, and then everything started to flow when we found out that we had already the idea before before of the first talking. It was actually amazing. I don't know. I believe in connections behind distance and behind the presence, and I believe that we can really communicate in another way. And I was really surprised by this way to connect each others.
And there's something else as well, that when we were talking in that first conversation, we discovered we've both really enjoyed contact improvisation. So although I'm a musician, I also I trained in theatre, and working with contact improvisation and dance and choreography has been a really strong interest of mine. And I think that sort of physical understanding and that physical sorry, my cat's meowing. That physical. There's a physicality of music, which somehow, as another connection, that sort of sense that when you're playing, bits of you are moving, obviously, and so there was what I liked in that first little tiny collaboration we did when we first met was just that sense of a physical mirroring, if you like. And I think there's something that could be really interesting to explore further, that idea of how movement in two digital spaces can make a piece of work, or even just more improvisation. I mean, that it's such a really lovely opportunity to be able to improvise.
Yeah,
it's really rare, in fact.
Definitely.
So thank you, Slow Theatre Company.
Definitely. It was something that really, occurred to me as I was watching you both, about that it did feel that there was a real responsiveness between you, and I wondered, what your experience was like of trying to respond to each other through, essentially you're not in each other's, within arm's reach of each other. You're as like me, performing in front of my laptop, which is balanced on some books on in front of my sofa. So I wondered if you could talk a little bit about that experience, about maybe what are the challenges were, or did you overcome that thing of the weirdness of like having to respond to your device? Like, how was that for you?
Yeah, personally, I was already imagining to use the device as a part of the performance. So actually, in the first part, I had the idea to use my phone to film really close parts of my face, and that was really interesting because we actually improvised all the first part, and I was reacting to the words of Xenia with the expression of my face, and I think that in that moment we started to exchange something. So we started to answer to each other's. And of course, in some moments I was feeling, okay, I'm just doing and I'm not listening, or I was actually questioning myself if I was always connected with her. So I always try to follow myself, but at the same time to be connected with her, because I didn't want it, of course, to continue with my own way. And basically, yes, I think we had this really strong way to find a way always to change the action and go to the next one. So we actually also didn't fix any point where we wanted to change to the next scene. So I personally just listen the time and the music, and I try to be with her most of the time.
It's so funny you say that, because that's what I was doing as well. And I was thinking, we'd written down a sort of these four ideas about a week ago, and they were in my mind, but they weren't anywhere where I could look at them. And it was really interesting how there seemed to be a natural rhythm that then came to a point, and then there'd be a change. And it was a sort of, and there was no, apart from a couple of places that I asked for Chris to put up different images, I mean, it just felt as if it was how it was meant to be. That sort of the flows and the changes and the transitions, which normally you agonize over, you know, how are we going to get from that to that? And there was something quite liberating about the fact that, you know, that this way of working actually seems to be pretty all right in many ways. Obviously we're starved of the human contact, but apart from that, we can't go and have a coffee afterwards. But the whole sort of because this is a premise that we knew we were going to be working in this format, so it's okay, actually.
I do love the idea of you both finding this magical thing that you didn't know about, you both working site specifically, and how actually maybe this is the start of a site specific piece of work where the site is Zoom, which I think is a really nice starting point. I also think one of the things that I really loved about your exchange was a sense of sort of organic matter, and I wondered, the sort of like organic in terms of obviously the nature imagery, but also the sort of, you know, the crunching of the paper and also the up close on your mouth matter and all this kind of stuff. And I wondered how whether that was a decision, I guess, because I think it's a really nice thing to bring into a digital space, actually. So I'd love to hear about that a bit.
Yeah, we when we first met, so we had the idea to bring some ideas connected to the actual situation of COVID. So actually the breathing and the sounds of the breathing was something that was important for both of us to use and to maybe use as a starting point, for example. And I think we were into the idea to use the breathing and our limitation. Actually, in this moment, it's a kind of moment of limitation, and also the idea to use the newspaper, and because in this moment we are reading everything, watching everything. We are always connected to our phone, our computer, and I think that the manipulation of the paper, of the newspaper, is something that probably we miss in this way. So I just started to play a bit with it, and came up something interesting, because also Xenia had some ideas to interact with the noises. So how the music can be something that we can connect also with sounds, but with noises, words, and different way to experiment as well.
There was actually a question about, let me find it, from an audience member who asked, about what the reasoning was behind some of the virtual backgrounds that you were using, Marta. And this one audience member said that it gave them a sense of being invisible, of the world not taking care of you as they rush past you, and they wanted to know whether that was intentional.
Well, that's amazing. The idea I had in the last days is to film the people on the subway, on the street, while I was walking outside doing my own things, so in my daily life. So I say, okay, should I use as a background? So as a site-specific performer, sometimes I used to be always outside, and now I cannot. So I can't really perform on the street or in crowded places. And now I imagine to bring this outside here, just in this moment, also to experiment a bit with this background. And for me, it was super interesting to use the movement and to disappear slowly and became part of the background. So yeah, I was really playing with these joyful movements, also with my hands, because at some point I was just trying to say hello from a distance, and just my hand was there, was not there anymore. So that was really kind of, yeah, way to disappear and to I don't know, asking for help at some point. I was feeling, yeah. Also, I think the idea to use a real background instead of a virtual one was really important for me, because actually you can bring the audience outside in your city, in the place you live. Because most of the time with virtual backgrounds, we had nice pictures, we have really nice edited pictures, but we don't have the reality. So that was the main reason.
Yeah, and was that the same reasoning behind the pictures that you had, Ixenia, in there? Which
Yeah, I mean, the pictures I had were to show the things which had actually kept me sane. Actually, lots of actually going on there, but there was it was so important for me to be able to get to those calm outside spaces. It is normally, but now more than ever. And I know that lots of people could not get to those spaces, which is why I wanted to include them in this as a sort of a recognition that space is not democratic, actually. And I loved Marta's end respect, which is a bit of paper with respect, because I think that one of the issues that's really been highlighted through this crisis is the lack of respect that many people live with, which is not acceptable in 2020. So that, it felt to me, Marta, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but it felt to me like we were quite political.
Yeah, absolutely. I just told in Italian words from the prime minister, and from another chef of the Liguria, I guess. So there were real sentences, and they were quite sarcastic, because I mean, the first one told that the old people died and was not, I mean, they were not so useful for the productivity of the society. So they were actually people that they could die. And this is a politician. And the second one is Salvini, and he actually say that the people can have the COVID, but that not means that they are sick. So that was something that it's a little bit strange, no? Because he was against the curfew that in Italy is actually still present. But at the same time, yeah, it's a kind of really political discourse right now, because we have a problem with security in hospitals, and with high numbers of infected people. And I think it's quite unrespectful when a person, as a politician, says something like that. So for me, it was really important to, maybe for the Italian people that is watching, they already had in mind what I was telling, but it was really important to bring outside these kind of sentences to explain how politicians are actually facing up the situation.
And was that something, the sort of political nature, was that something that came up as a surprise to both of you, or was it something you spoke about before?
We didn't talk about it, did we, Marta? It just happened.
Yeah.
This natural synergy that you clearly have between you, which is wonderful. I think one of the other things that I found really wonderful to watch was the sense of framing that you both brought to that experience, and I wondered how considered that was and how planned through that was.
It was a little planned, but because we had talked about the starting very close up, and we were thinking about so that image was not quite recognizable. And I didn't quite manage that with a harp. Even though it's a little harp, it was quite hard to disguise it totally. So I'd thought originally about having just a tiny glint of metal of the top visible, so you wouldn't really know what it was. And that idea of a sort of emerging clarity as we went through, so that by the end you'd see us and you'd see our world a bit more clearly. That was sort of but it wasn't a hugely in-depth conversation. It was sort of an area of brief exploration.
Yeah, I think we imagine to drive the audience as well to kind of experience where actually was not really clear since the beginning what we were filming, and then we wanted to bring them more in a kind of recognizable image through the end.
So they're less discombobulated and more comfortable.
I have to say I felt a bit discombobulated when the mask came out.
Okay. Yeah, actually that was a surprise because I didn't tell it before, but then I say yes, I will do it because I had this mask here, and
Good call, Marta.
yeah, it was really cool.
There definitely was a sense of a kind of like almost like ghostly, haunting feel to the beginning of it, definitely. And I think, you know, as you said, Xenia, you were almost slightly shrouded, the lighting was very dark, and then Marta, there were the moments when you were sort of wonderfully like disappearing in and out of the virtual background, and you know, an arm would appear or a face, and yeah, it was really gorgeous. And I think there's something in that obscurity which is quite nice, it's quite pleasing to the eye, and it sort of invites you to come closer or to try and make sense of it, which was really lovely.
Beautiful. Thanks a lot.
We've got another question here from the audience. This one is for Xenia, and the question was: Is Xenia jamming, or is she playing something that she knows?
Jamming. It was wholly improvised.
Wow, yeah.
There was one riff I played quite near the end, which is it's part of the opening of a song, which is my arrangement of a song. But apart from that, it was all in the moment.
And is this something? The second part of this question is this something that you're used to, and how much is a harp an instrument to jam with?
It's not something I'm used to. It's something I've very much enjoyed. I have made music for other artists, like working in theatre before, but normally you know we rehearse it and write something especially for it. And I think the harp is really versatile. So the first harp you saw, the little tiny harp, has got a really high tone and a very sweet, clear tone. And the second one is just a bit bigger, so it's got a bit more oomph. And then a concert harp, there's so much you can do with it. You can make sort of wah-wah noises with the pedals, you can drum the soundboard, you can slide your nails on the metal strings, you can play really close to the soundboard, so it's very thin sound, or you can play the full sound in the middle of the strings. So I think, yeah, that the harp is a pretty versatile instrument for improvising. And I highly recommend it.
How much did both of you plan? Because I mean, obviously we've spoken a bit about the sort of visual score of the piece, but in terms of the musicality and the moments of silence and the moments of the paper, and I mean, how much of that was planned out for both of you?
Not planned. No, not absolutely. No, we just had a kind of really brief talk about these, but we didn't actually plan it. We just follow each other's.
Amazing.
We listened.
Yeah,
true.
Yeah, I think that was another sort of discombobulating moment for me. I think when the sound of the paper, because actually it sounded kind of extraordinary. Like paper doesn't normally sound like that. I don't know if it's something to do with it traveling, you know, over the sort of digital ether, but that was quite a magical moment as well, and it felt I don't know, it felt like as if it was something that was planned, I guess. But it wasn't at all. That's brilliant.
No, I just I told that probably I will break the newspaper, so we had in mind that probably something similar was happening, but we didn't actually try it or talk to each other how much time we were developing the action or the music, nothing.
I didn't even look at I mean, in the very, very first section, I looked at my phone clock once. That was the last time I looked at it. I just sort of went with the flow.
Yeah, it did feel like it flew past, actually, I have to say.
Yes.
It went very quickly. Um, what do you think was one of the more difficult aspects of this collaboration? I mean, we've spoken about the easy parts. What were the sort of tangly, difficult parts?
Well, for me, it was my microphone on my laptop and working out where was the sound coming from. Why was the sound still happening when it said it was off? You know,
Yeah,
it's a
for
very
me it was.
practical thing.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Martha, what were you going to say?
Yeah, no, I was telling that for me the difficult part was to understand where Xenia was, because sometimes I could not see her, I could not hear any sound, so I was like in a break moment, but I was not actually in a break because I was still alive. So yeah, I was like just thinking, okay, should I call Chris or should I tell something to her? Then I say, okay, yes, of course, because it's an improvisation. But yeah, I was feeling really weird because actually we were together, but in this moment where we lose each other, so we couldn't see each other's, I was feeling a little bit lost, and that was, I think, the only moment when I was actually feeling like this.
Mm. Well, that's brilliant if it was basically just tech issues that got in the way, which we probably couldn't have expected. So what do you think, if this collaboration were to continue, where do you think it would go next?
I'd like to make a piece of work.
What did you say, Xenia? Sorry.
I'd like to make a piece of work.
Mm.
I'd like to take this probably with this rough framework and see what it turns into.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm also imagining more also to use the video as a medium to connect each others, and probably can be a finished product or also kind of frame for a possible real performance, maybe live
That
performance
would be
together.
such fun, wouldn't it?
That would be
A
really
site-specific
beautiful.
performance
Yeah, absolutely.
in different places. So that would be really exciting to do a performance near you and a performance near me, and maybe somewhere in the middle for good measure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a good starting point, because actually we had already a lot of ideas and kind of flow of the work. It's already there.
So do you
And
think
that question of whether we would do it again, absolutely.
that was going to be my next question? And how much do you think the liveness of this exchange was important to what happened as well?
I think it's important because you gave a kind of official I mean rehearsal, experimentation, I don't know, was a kind of really prepared, and we were waiting to perform today. So actually I think it's important also to have a live session, also for ourselves, for our work, for our performance, but at the same time the idea of sharing this moment with the public, it's actually something really interesting, because when someone is watching an artworks or it's watching a concert, I think they don't have the possibility to follow the process that it's happening before. So this is, I think, a really an intimate moment between me and Xenia, of feeling ourselves really strong, but at the same time you feel really vulnerable, because actually I don't know, for me it's just to take something out and try out things and say, okay, I will do this and this. But at the same time, I know that some images that I create are maybe weaker than other images. And of course, when you prepare a piece, then you are going to choose the best part of it. But in this moment, we show everything. So that's really interesting. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm. Yeah, and how was that experience? Because I mean, both of you are performers who presumably are used to performing to a live audience. And, you know, obviously we came into this exchange knowing that there were people lurking on the other side of our webcams. But, you know, how was that sense for you? Like,
Quite
did you
fun.
get a sense of performing to an audience, or did you have to sort of conjure it yourself?
It didn't seem to be a big deal, actually. I think that because you can't see who's there, there might be 100 people, there might be 5 people. You know, it didn't matter actually. What for me it mattered. What mattered was the interaction with Marta and seeing what happened in the space that we had today.
Yeah.
So I'd be really interested to know how that came across to the audience, because I have absolutely no idea how it would have come across. You know, not normally you see people's faces, or you hear reactions, or you sense the energy in the room. But when you got an iPad and a laptop and a cat lurking, it's quite hard to gauge.
Yeah, how was that experience for you, Marta?
Yeah, and normally when I perform in a crowd place or with people, you have this special emotion and feeling, of course, you know, also because you are also a performer. And I think that with the Zoom performance, you are conscious that you are going to perform, but I think the feeling is completely different, because actually you are alone. I'm alone in my studio with the devices, and no one is here, and I was feeling a little bit awkward sometimes. Just imagine that someone was entering and I was just doing weird stuff. But actually, yes, I was aware that the public was in front of the screen, but yeah, there is, I think, a kind of detachment from the public in certain ways. So you know that this thing is public, but it's, I think, less less frightening that concert or a performance in another place.
Yeah, I think I mean it's a tough thing, isn't it? Because as both of you said, you normally as a performer you're really feeding off the energy of the people in the room, whether that's good energy or bad energy. But I think, yeah, I wondered actually whether, because there were some moments during your exchange that felt so intimate, and actually I wonder whether that slightly closed off feeling enhances that feeling of intimacy for the viewer, which is quite nice. Because I mean, especially actually the moment where you both called it 10 minutes before I was meant to call it, and you were just chatting, and actually there was a sense as a viewer that maybe I shouldn't be watching this actually, because it just felt, I mean, it was obviously like really lovely to watch, but there was a sense of, it just felt like two of you, you know, on a Zoom call together, and that felt really wonderful. So I think maybe as an outsider to this process, that is something that quite excites me about this platform and the potentials of it for live performance. So yeah, I think that's something I'll definitely take away from today. So thank you to both of you. So I'm just going to round off, but I'd just love to hear just one thing, just from both of you, one thing that you'll take away, a little treasure that you'll take away from your experience today.
Absolutely, I can take away a lot of freedom, because in this moment we are actually, today is the first day of the stronger lockdown. So actually Berlin, it's again in a new lockdown, and we are going through this new moment. I don't know, maybe it's finishing, will be finishing in January, but I think that today I was feeling really connected with the outside world, and I was really not feeling anymore this pressure of the borders, this pressure of the impossibility to travel, and I think freedom for me was the main idea.
Beautiful.
That's really interesting, and I think for me, it's a combination of the freedom that I discovered in this platform, working with you, Marta, and also a sense of reconnection to a creative energy, which has been woefully lacking. We rely so much on the stimulation of conversations and interactions and physical encounters, and without all of those, this is a really valuable space.
Yeah, I agree. Amazing. Well, thank you so much to both of you for your energy and for the amazing experience that you provided for us and our audience. And that's it for tonight then, so we'll leave it there. So I'll just say, thanks once again to our amazing artists, Marta and Xenia. Thank you to all of you out there watching. Also a big thanks to our team behind the scenes. If you would like to tune into the final creative exchange, we will be recommencing again in January, and you can check Slow Theatre's website for that. So once again, thank you so much, artists, and we'll see you all soon.
Thank you, Slow Theatre Company, really.
Thank you, Slow Theatre Company, exactly. See you again.
Yeah.
Ciao.
Ciao, Xenia.
Ciao, Marta. We have to leave now.
Yeah. So thank you again for this exchange. Really was amazing for me.
We will talk again. We will stop the video, Louise, don't worry. Have a very, very safe Christmas, Marta.
You too. You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.